Wait. Before we start, just want to make sure we're clear here. While this podcast talks about sobriety, mental health, and addiction, it is not meant to replace professional medical advice. Welcome to Sisters in Sobriety.
I'm Kathleen.
And I'm Sonia.
And we're ex-sisters-in-law, brought together in marriage and bonded through our sobriety journey.
Join us as we talk sobriety, addiction, and everything in between. You're in for quite a ride. And our Substack is buzzing with amazing content, from creative mocktail recipes to insightful courses and reflective exercises. There is something for everyone. Don't miss out. It's a great way to add some extra joy and depth to your journey. Check it out. Welcome to Sisters in Sobriety. I'm Sonia, and today's episode is kind of a big deal for me. I'm doing something that I've sort of danced around for years now. The 12 steps. I've gone to meetings here and there. I've always felt the wisdom of AA. I've respected how much it's helped other people. But if I'm totally honest, I've never fully committed. I've never just bitten the bullet and done the steps. And there's always just been this invisible barrier for me, this feeling of maybe it's too rigid, it's not for me, maybe I can just take what I want and leave the rest. But something's just been slowly shifting in my mind. And after years of building Sisters in Sobriety and interviewing neuroscientists, psychologists, addiction experts, and tons of just real people living this, I've realized something that it's almost impossible to ignore, which is the steps work. And they may not be perfect or magical, but consistently, they really change people. And I reached this point where I thought, okay, I talk about recovery every week. I hold space for these conversations. I believe in this work. Why am I sort of standing at the edge of it? So today, I'm stepping in, and I couldn't imagine doing it with anyone more aligned than with my friend, Arlina Allen. She is a recovery coach. She's the host of the One Day at a Time podcast and the author of the 12 Steps for Skeptics, which is basically written for people like me who are drawn to the steps but have hesitations. So wherever you are in your journey, whether the steps have been your foundation or whether you've also felt that invisible barrier, I hope this episode meets you right where you are. So let's get into the step.
Okay, we're doing step 2. What did you just say?
I did not love step 2. I don't love it.
Should we say what step 2 is?
Sure. Go ahead.
Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
And so my problem starts with the word sanity.
Okay.
And continues. Okay, so part of your homework was read chapter 2, 3, and 4, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that this is more of a semantic issue. Like the terminology seemed really outdated. Given now what we know about mental health and stress and the need for coping mechanisms, it just felt outdated, like talking about like sedatives and morphine and or saying things like, for some obscure reason, they've lost the power of choice. And it's like, no, they don't have coping mechanisms. I don't know if God gave me alcoholism. You know what I mean? God gave me my mom and dad. Okay. And that messed me up and I didn't develop any coping mechanisms. So I think where I will sort of like allow the concept of like the sanity and insanity is like once we take a drink, we sort of can't remember why we weren't supposed to do it, right? So we can't remember the month ago or the week ago when we had all these consequences. And that in itself is a type of like insanity, right? And so I totally get that. I just felt like the kind of like the idea that like, I don't know why this is happening. This did not resonate with me because I think a lot of my like work is to figure out like why it's happening or why I was like this or why I have these tendencies. And so I think that to me, and then, you know, reading the 12 Steps, 12 Traditions definitely helped. And it definitely like smoothed out. And then doing the homework that you had like smoothed out some of the like edges that I found in the actual like AA book that like I was just kind of like bristling. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say, Arlina.
No, that's really good. I think it's really important to talk about like what doesn't work. So, maybe I can offer a different perspective to sort of
Yes.
make this more palatable. And the truth is, we're doing this a little bit differently because you've been sober a long time already, right? So these ideas of insanity might not. You're in a very different place, but we still all have like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And like when I was in my addiction, I would be like, I'd wake up hungover and I'd be like, I'm never doing this again. And then I would start feeling better. And then by that evening, I would get that restless, like, I gotta go out and go have a good time. So to me, that was insanity. And I would wake up the next day just feeling so horrible again. And it's like, I need help. I had a sponsor tell me the whole point of 12-step is to help you gain access to a higher power. And so that begins with this idea that I can't fix myself. I need help. Like I need outside perspective. I need to, air my thinking out to somebody and to get feedback. And so really it's this idea that I need help and I'm going to get it from a higher power, whether that's like you and I together or a combination of that. And, I'll just call it God, finding a God that made sense to me. Like I had to come up with an idea. And really that's the crux of step 2 is to come up with a higher power that makes sense to you. So
yes, that's when it started to, that's when these chapters sort of started to make more sense to me and I started to accept it a bit.
Yeah, and I think, I was reading this stuff in 1994 in the 1900s when there really we didn't have as much information. So maybe that's why I was able to sort of, understand. And listen, it's interesting that you bring up this idea of I needed to understand why. Why am I like this? I feel like that is the question that comes up for people. We think that if we could just figure out why I'm like this, then I could figure out how to fix it. But that's not how it works. The why doesn't actually matter as much as we think it does. There's something about understanding the mechanics. Like I was just having a conversation with somebody today who's a neuroscientist, and they were like, we have understanding of the mechanics now. And my feeling is science is so good at understanding the mechanics because then we sidestep the whole guilt and shame part, right? Like so many of us have guilt and shame. We're like, why am I like this? But it's coming from this guilt and shame part. And then we go, oh, well, you had trauma. Your neurology was affected. How, when you get stressed out, you're wired so that you seek escape or you seek relief where other people find. When we understand the mechanics, it's like, oh, okay. But then the question always comes to, well, now what?
So I hear what you're saying, but I am not someone who believes that once I understand why I did it, I can go back to doing it in a healthy way.
Oh, no.
So that, I think, is where we're similar, right? So it's not that I think, I can sanely drink, or once I figure out what caused it, I can now go back or I won't have those tendencies. I think what is troubling to me is semantic, right? And so the idea that it's just antiquated, but I guess so is the Bible, right? Like we don't.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we don't use words like asylum anymore. We don't use words like nervous disposition. And so, maybe this is just me kind of trying to understand why AA is not as woke as I want it to be. And so you explaining it, and it's like, yeah, you're right. If that's the definition of sanity that we're using, which is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result but getting the same result, that's acceptable to me in the way it's used in this. I think what I'm arguing about is like, well, what's the definition of sanity? And so when you explain it the way you do, it makes more sense to me.
Yeah. And and then it's the whole take what you like, leave the rest. And so one of the suggestions when you go to meetings is look for the similarities, not the differences.
Yeah.
So if we're looking for why is this literature outdated, then you're going to just find all the reasons why the literature is outdated. But if you're coming to it like, what do I relate to? Like the whole We Agnostics chapter,
Yeah.
I thought was so interesting because they do talk about like, we don't know. So go out and explore, seek where these religious people are right.
Right.
It's very open-ended, and there's so much of it that they were writing it from a place of humility, which I really appreciated. So there was a lot in there. And I always encourage people to go to book study meetings, because if you go to a book study meeting, you read a paragraph and then you share what it meant to you, like what you got out of it or what it means to you. So when you hear other people with experience, share what they get out of it, then it sort of is more helpful. And I meant to say in the beginning that you're a lot further down the road, much further down. You've been sober a long time already. If you were brand new, then we would probably read it together. Like you read a paragraph, I read a paragraph. We didn't do that because you're not.
Yeah.
You have a really solid foundation.
You're right, though, and I think this is true for so many things, and I forgot this when I was reading it, which is if you're looking for the things that kind of bother you, you're going to find them. And so by the end of me reading it, there's like a story.
Frustrated?
Yeah, there's a story where Fred's at the counter in the diner eating a sandwich, and he's drinking milk.
And he drops the booze in it.
Yeah. And he throws the whiskey into the milk. And I was like, nobody does that. Like, who drinks whiskey and milk now? Like that, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, when you're watching like an older movie and like their landline rings and it like takes you out of the story.
So you see a computer and it's like this giant.
And so that is what I think once that like,
switch got flipped.
And that, you know what? You're right. I was then looking for things. And so I was yelling. I was actually listening to it on audio in my car. And I was like, Fred, come on.
No, you were also not a low bottom drunk either.
No, you're right. I was not Fred dropping whiskey in my... But I did wander around with like wine and water bottles in my purse when I was like, especially around my in-laws.
I just interviewed this gal who ate cookies out of the garbage.
Oh, I know, Allie Shapiro.
No, not Allie. Did she do that too? And it was a whole other gal, Amber.
I interviewed somebody who ate cookies out of the garbage too.
Maybe it's not that uncommon, but people do weird shit around addiction. So
no, you're right. I mean, no, this was me just being like, I don't like the word this, and then
you were off and running.
I was off and running, and then there was this. Whoever is reading it says something about like, and I really do like this concept about like how long does it take to become an alcoholic? Can we catch it like earlier? And they say something about how women can escalate particularly quickly.
Listen, when I first got sober, I had my book, and every time it said he, I added an S.
Yes.
I was a chapter to the wives. Are you kidding me? It's like,
okay, so no,
the audacity.
And so no, you're right. And that's why I think so. I did this in a few different like sittings, and the first was listening to the AA text being read. And so that I started to get like a little squirrely, but then when I went to 12 Steps, 12 Traditions, and then went to your homework, things started to feel a lot better.
Yeah, the 12 and 12.
It's a story of redemption.
Yes. He redeemed himself. Yeah, I particularly liked the 12 and 12. When I was hosting that meeting, we were reading out of the 12. I've hosted many meetings, and I always choose the 12 and 12 because it's sort of like a deep dive on the step. And he wrote it. That was written like way after I think he wrote the big book within like the first few years of his sobriety. I can't imagine. Can you imagine writing a book your first few years of sobriety? I should know how it was written in 1935. I don't remember when he got sober, but anyway, he wrote the 12 and 12, and I thought was a really good deep dive.
I loved that, and this is where it changed for me when in 12 and 12 it says just have an open mind, and if you need to, just take it piecemeal.
Yeah,
right? And
that's all.
That's all.
Yeah, it really does lower the bar quite a bit. It's sort of like the Atomic Habits, just 2 minutes. What's a 2 minute? Just piecemeal, chunk it down type of thing. Okay, so I'm curious. Did you already start off with, did you have a concept of a higher power when you started this? Just this round of steps, maybe not when you first got sober.
Yeah, I think I have a concept of spirituality, and maybe not a typical like omnipotent God kind of higher power, but definitely an idea of spirituality and like maybe guides. I like the concept, like the idea of people, spirits or something guiding me, or something in the universe guiding me. I have that idea.
Love that. Yeah. And did you ever struggle with the differentiating spirituality from religion?
Yeah, I think religion has always had a negative connotation for me. And so, what do you think?
I grew up religious.
Yeah.
And so I drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Probably a bad euphemism, but I was in it. Like I grew up in it. And then I started drinking when I was actually really young. And I wanted to be good. So there lies the conflict. I wanted to be good, but I actually had all this I had all this trauma. And so I was acting out and I couldn't control myself. And I tried to get God to fix me, and God never fixed me. So I was like, I'm breaking up. Me and God are breaking up. So me and God broke up for a long time because I couldn't, something wasn't happening for me. So when I got to 12 step and I saw all this God stuff, I was like, oh girl, if this is what it's going to be, I'm not going to be able to do it. And that's when a woman pulled me aside and was like, oh, that's not a thing. Don't even worry about it. Just write down the list of everything that you would want God to be. And then what's all the things that you wouldn't want God to be. And I wrote it out on a piece of paper. I handed it to her. She tore it in half. I was like, what? She's like, okay, huh?
She was like, keep this half, the one that
keep this half, basically. Just start with this, piecemeal.
I think the best thing, the thing that I was so profound to me was that they say in 12 and 12, we hadn't asked God what his will was for us. We had been telling him what it ought to be. And that belief means reliance, not defiance. And that really resonated. I think I am inherently defiant, right? And so I think that's what you're describing when you were younger, when it's like when you ask God to fix you and she didn't, it's like, well, God doesn't exist, right? When what we should really be asking is what is your will for me, and not what you think the will should be. And so that it really, that moved me.
I hear a lot of people are like, oh, well, you're abdicating responsibility to some airy-fairy thing. And that's actually not what it is. You're asking for guidance, and then you take action, like you do the next right thing. It's really like a gut check. Mm-hmm. It's a gut check. It's like, what is the next right thing? Typically, the hard thing is the right thing, right? It's like, I really need to go back and apologize and take responsibility for what I said, regardless of whether they say sorry or not, or, I really want to eat that thing, but instead I'm going to go work out. It's typically like, that saying, hard choices make an easy life and easy choices make a hard life. And so people who say, oh, well, if you go to 12 step, they tell you to turn your will over to this God. It's like you're abdicating like you're not taking responsibility. It's actually just the opposite. It's like, give me the courage to do the right thing, which is really hard.
Yeah. And that's what this sort of, that's what spoke to me about that, we're not asking, you're not asking God to like affirm the easy choice.
Yes. Yeah. Typically the right choice is the hard one.
Yeah. It's like a gut check for the hard choice.
Yeah. Yeah. God's not out. I guess God is out there, but to me, and I don't use it in terms of gender, like that never made sense to me, the whole gender thing. So even though I was like really defiant in the beginning and write an S in front of he, like I was just mad about that. But now I'm like, that doesn't even make sense either. It's not a she. It's not maybe, or maybe it's both or whatever. I guess whatever. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, it's that small, quiet voice. I heard from Marianne Williamson that the ego speaks first and the ego speaks loudest. So, there's also this idea of first thought wrong, right? So it's like my first impulse is typically not loving. It's fearful. It's loud. And so like, that's why I need to work with somebody else to kind of process that fear and emotion so that I can hear that internal voice. Then I call it like an internal compass, that gut check.
I feel the same way you do, that first impulse is usually wrong. Some people would say though, that isn't that your instinct? Like what is instinct then? And is your instinct wrong?
Well, in 12 step, they talk about your instincts are character defects that are out of balance. Everybody hates that word.
Yeah. Character defect? Yeah.
Character, yeah. So I just call it human frailties. Like we all have these little human frailties, we're all built this way. So, yes, like I might have the instinct when I'm driving to run somebody over.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm going to do that. Right. Or flip someone up. That's my spiritual gauge is when I'm driving. It's like, can I drive peacefully? If I'm not driving peacefully, then I need to do a little work to get like, what's going on with me? But that's a spiritual gauge for me. But so it's the internal voice. And sometimes we have to process the fear. We have to process the impulse to find out what the truth is underneath everything. And that is what I try to listen to.
Oh, hey, I love that. That is huge for me because I always, I have cultivated a practice of pausing between my impulsive sort of thought and like when I react. And so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I'm naturally like a hothead. And this idea of practicing restraint of tongue and pen is kind of how they phrase it. I think that's in the literature, but it means that we just pause before we react. We have, it's like, what is triggering me? What's being affected in me? Like there's a treasure under every trigger. Like if you can pause and really work with the trigger, then we typically learn something about ourselves. Typically we discover a wound that hasn't been healed yet. Like I used to be really reactive when people who are condescending. And it reminded me of somebody from my childhood was always super condescending to me. And I was powerless at the time. I was just a little kid. I didn't have the tools or knowledge or experience to defend myself. And so that I got to go back and kind of feel those feelings and reprocess and do like all the IFS stuff, all the journaling, all the, whatever, and heal that. And so now when people are condescending, I'm not as reactive to it. I can pause and be like, oh, this has nothing to do with me.
Condescending is maybe my only trigger that's left.
That's a hot button for a lot of people.
Hot button. I don't encounter it that often.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I think that we learn to kind of weed people out. I think as adults more that are, you can't do it when you're younger and your parent or your teacher is condescending. But I think as an
Yeah.
adult, you can sort of choose to not, like, if you don't have to be around condescending people, you can kind of avoid them. But that's really interesting that that's your
Yeah,
trigger too.
that was my trigger. And now when I hear, so when condescension usually comes my way, it's in the form of like an interrogation question.
Mm.
Like, oh, who do you think you are? I was like, oh, you think you're a big deal now? Or I don't even, I'm just spitballing here. It's like just ask somebody a question and they come back with like something that's sort of implying that my question is stupid. And so I typically now what I do is I just ask them the question back. It happened recently where I was like, hey, did you say that this person was going to go into the military? And they were like, you really think a lesbian is going to do well in the military? And I'm like, do you think there are no lesbians in the military? Do you know what I mean?
Said what to who?
Yeah, I don't know if any of that made sense, but it was like I just flipped it back on them. And I was like, you think there's not? So I just deflect back. Like I'm like, this isn't mine. Like I'm not gonna defend myself or explain myself or allow you to make me feel like I'm stupid. Because that's what condescension is somebody is positioning themselves better than you and that you're less than.
Yeah.
And that's always been a hot button for me anyway. Like I already think I'm less than. I don't need you to point that out.
Yes. And my reaction to it is to sort of like bluster a bit too, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that is not authentic to who I am either. And so, yes,
Yeah.
now my reaction more often than not is I think that people who are being condescending are ridiculous. Like I want to laugh at them. Like yes, I think that is my like more often reaction now is what an idiot.
Like to just laugh it off.
Yeah, to just laugh it off unless it is about something important that like I need to make a point about. But if it's not, I think a lot of times too with me, like I don't think I look that young, but sometimes with older men, especially, there's this kind of like, oh, honey, or oh, how's, and that I don't know if those kind of men now are going to be changed. I think that that's how they've been behaving their whole lives. And so before, that type of behavior used to just burn me, but now I just think like you're going to die soon.
Well, the sad thing is that there's a whole nother generation of that it's the Andrew Tates of the world or whatever.
Yeah, the toxic masculinity. I think I'm talking about more like, so in my other life, I was a dentist, and dentists are sort of notorious, right? For calling their assistant sweetie and for like rubbing shoulders and and just I think overall a little bit more inappropriate, for example, than doctors because it's maybe a little bit less serious of a job. And so sometimes I will encounter like older dentists still and they're like, hey, sweetie, how's it going? And it's like, no.
My name is Sonia.
Yeah, like they're close to retirement. And so I just, I'm not giving them a pass. I'm just not letting them raise my blood pressure.
Well, that's the other thing is like we could also choose not to respond. It like just go, yeah, this is not worth it. I'm not going to get
not
upset
sanction,
about
like not condone it in any way.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning. I'm not like, oh, thanks for calling me sweetie. But yeah, just ignoring somebody sometimes can be enough.
Yeah. I guess it sort of just depends on where you're at that day. Some days I'm a little spicy, and some days I'm
lesbians in the military, I'd be pretty spicy too. If somebody said like, why would you think a lesbian would be in the military? I'd be like, for one thing.
Yeah, I was a little, are you kidding me right now? Like I seriously was like, but anyway, that's sort of beside the point. But it was like, yeah, so there's we still get triggered, but it's sometimes, I think like if you have a little bit of a pause, you can choose your response rather than be reactive. I hate being reactive. I hate it when someone like yanks my chain and I lose my cool. I do not like that. So I don't want any of that. Okay, so there were actually 3 questions in the homework. So it was like, make a list of all the attributes and qualities you would like your higher power to have. What were some of the things that you listed?
So I think I had some typical ones, which were like forgiving, empathetic, loving, has my best interests and my growth at heart. I think the one that surprised me was a flexible kind of changing but steady presence, if that makes sense. So not a fixed entity, but something that's sort of changing and adapting as I change, sort of, and adapt, and my like values change and my experiences change and adapt. So what were yours when you did this exercise?
All those things. And I don't know where I got this idea. I don't think I came up with it on my own, but this idea of God as a master organizer.
Yeah.
Where
I have
like a
that
master
written.
planner, master organizer, so that as I was growing and evolving and changing, it was almost as if they were changing the path in front of me.
Yes, I wrote down very specifically no fate. Like there's not this fate idea.
Yeah, fixed fate.
Yeah, fixed fate. Like this is okay. Yeah.
And I had gone down this rabbit hole of quantum physics, which sort of maybe a subset. I'm no expert, so there's probably going to be somebody listening that's coming unhinged. But the way I understood this idea is like time is not linear. So as I make decisions today, there are things changing in my future as I make different, and sometimes so here's an example of what I'm talking about. I will be out of sorts for some reason. I'll be going through it. I'll be twisted up for some reason. I go to a meeting and somebody shares the exact thing I needed to hear. And I'm like, what is that? I didn't say anything out loud. Do you know what I mean? I've had so many instances of, and we call them God shots or, serendipity. There've been so many. Actually, I'll show you a really cool God story. I was sharing at this meeting, and the way they did it in California is like there's a podium, and then the chairperson shares their story. They pick a topic, and then they open it up for sharing, and the chairperson will pick people to share. And so I don't even remember what the topic was, but I saw one of my first sponsors in the crowd. Her name was Marianne. So I asked Marianne if she would share. She says, I'm going to pass my time to Tammy. I don't know if her name is Tammy or not, but anyway, I'm going to pass my time to Tammy. And when I did my share, I never say my sobriety date, which is April 23rd of 94. I typically don't say that. But for whatever, I always say a little prayer, God, have me say whatever it is that you'd want me to say. And so for whatever reason, I tell my story, and I just happen to share that. I don't think anything of it. But when Marianne passes to Tammy, Tammy comes up to share, and she's like, my husband just died. I'm on my way to the funeral. I had to come to a meeting because I was afraid I was going to drink. And I asked God for a sign. This always makes me cry.
Yeah.
She goes, I asked for a sign. And when you said your sobriety date, that was our wedding date. And I was like, what just happened? That was her wedding date. Isn't it crazy? Like, I don't know what that is. So that to me is like an example of God just orchestrating things. Like that. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, I wrote, so your next question was, how will you look for the higher power to work in your life? And my first one on the list is synchronicity.
No, that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. That you're talking. Okay. Wow, that story is.
What is that? I've had so many instances like that since I got sober and like really trying to tune in to my internal compass and just do the next right thing and just like letting go and wanting to be of service. Like crazy things like that happen all the time.
We had an astrologer on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. I always assume astrologers sort of like that there's this fixed sort of like fated future, right? And so based on your chart, there is like these 5 things are going to happen. And so I remember my brother got really into astrology for a while, and my brother was in recovery at the time, and he said, "Oh, the stars say that my life is going to be a tragedy." And the only tragedy in my brother's life is the stuff he's done. Okay. Like there has been no like outside major tragedies, like no external tragedies. He's caused them all. And so, I think my issue always with astrology was that idea that because of the way he had always explained it to me, it was this fixed thing. And she said, the astrologer we had on was that, no, I believe in free will. And astrology is there basically to show you your tendencies, but it is in no way a map. I thought it was literally like a map. Like, here are the stars. This is a map. This is what's going to happen. And it's changeable. And so, like, was it, I don't think it was fated, when you were born that you were going to be at that meeting, that, that lady would need to hear that. But like at some point, it just everything aligned. Yeah.
It's just, I feel like it's a dynamic thing.
Yeah.
It's dynamic. It's not static. It's dynamic. And so as I change, so does my future.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But it's the intersection of like I changed in this moment and there were all these other things at play that had to happen way ahead of time. That's what I mean. Like time is not linear, right? Like we experience time as linear, but in the spiritual realm and energetic realm, it's not linear. Like, I was doing this, I'll give you another example. This is so strange because the things that had to line up were just totally crazy. So I was, my kids went back to school. Like I was kind of a stay-at-home mom. I had daycare in my house. I was working, but the kids went to school. So I went back to corporate and I was in this job. I hated it. There was this girl training me. She's 15 years younger than me. She was so mean to me. Like I was miserable in this job. So I started doing like this manifesting type journaling. And I was prepared. Like I wanted to get a job in tech sales because I was in Silicon Valley. And I had a lot of people that I knew that were in it. And I totally wanted to be in it. And so out of the blue, this is my sign of like serendipity or God working in my life. Out of the blue, a friend reaches out to me and he says, "Hey, we're interviewing for this job." And I had my resume ready. And I was at this job I hated. So my email was up. Bing, in comes the email. "Hey, send me your resume. There's jobs opening." And I, bing, sent it right back to him. He was like, "Holy shit, that was fast." And then the series of events that happened, he was like, "The director has already chosen somebody. So it'll just be a good exercise for you. Like, don't get your hopes up." So I was like, what can I do to make this guy want to hire me? So I tried to close him, in sales. So I tried to close him in the interview. I offered him. I was like, "Hey, did that other candidate offer you anything?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, I'll commit to it. I know this is a high turnover position. I'll commit to 2 years." Yeah. And he was like, "Oh." And then I tried to close him a few times in the meeting. And by the end of it, they were like, "Hire her." So they ended up hiring me. Well, what I didn't know is like, it was a startup and it was being acquired by HP. And the VP was away that week that I had my interview. And he had a requirement that anybody that landed that position needed to have 5 years of experience. But because he was gone that week, because HP was acquiring this startup, he just happened to be gone that week. Yeah. And I got the interview. And one of the other weird things that happened is they opened the rec on a Monday. They got me my offer letter and I signed it that Friday, the week that he was gone. It's so like the things that had to happen ahead of me, but I was ready. And so it was just really weird. I tripled my income that year.
Oh my God. And things you
Yeah.
weren't even aware of that were happening, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no way I could have orchestrated that or,
Oh,
yeah, maybe that speaks more to manifesting than anything else. But it
yeah.
was an example of time, like stuff was working out ahead of me and I hadn't even made the decision to apply yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Trippy stuff. Trippy stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So so the question too is how will you look for your higher power to work in your life? To me, it was moments of serendipity too.
Yeah. 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 Synchronicity was like the top of my list. Another one that this is really only possible now that I'm sober is like moments of like awe. There are those
Yeah.
moments where you're like in anything, like nature, anything like that. Yeah, those are big for me. I used to have them when I would drink, and I thought, like, you're like, whoa, or do drugs. But I didn't think that they were possible sober. And I
Interesting.
remember it probably was what kept me drinking for a while too. And so and like, wow, like, was it possible sober, right? And like so much more than I like ever thought. And like I still have like the first few that I remember, like the first like sober sunset, and like those things were like these moments of like,
Mm,
I can't believe like I'm sitting here, right? And
yeah.
so, and I have them all the time now. I have them so much more than I did when I was drinking. But that is a big way I look for, my higher power. Inspiration, I think, is a big one.
Hmm.
I think both of us are always like bing, 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 like, and
Oh, 100%.
that's something that's like I'm a very active, like inner life, if that makes sense. And again, it was like dulled by drinking, right? That
Mm.
inner life or the inner voice was sort of really, um, yeah, blindfolded by the alcohol. And so, yeah, a lot of the ways I look for it now are things that I couldn't have even thought about sober. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, one of my biggest ways is through people. Like God works in my life through people. Like sometimes I'll reach out to somebody and I'll be like, "Oh my God, I was just thinking about you." It's stuff like that. Or someone reaches out to me when I'm all twisted up and hey, I was just thinking about you. And I was like, what? Perfect timing. Like little things like that, or like running into somebody. I remember we were skiing in Tahoe and I think I was just having a good day, but it was like, I asked this lady, I was like, hey, I asked her a question about like my skis or something. And
Yeah.
she goes, Arlina? And, everyone's got like goggles and helmets on. And I was like, yeah. She goes, it's Amy. And it was a lady that I was like, what are you doing here? Like, it was just somebody from the program that I just happened to run into. And there was something about that. It just made my day. It was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it seems silly, but stuff like that.
Love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Those things are like, that's the shit, right? Like,
Yeah. I love that.
oh, you know what is one where the higher power is like sort of what you were talking about? Like it's in that pause between that impulse and the reacting. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like whatever that pause is or that space between those has something to do with something about my higher power, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Did it feel like you surprised yourself with acknowledging growth that you didn't think you could
Yes.
have before?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think too we had a Buddhist on the podcast. I think we
Oh,
interviewed
Randy?
him. No, but we have had Randy on. We had
Oh,
another
I love
Buddhist.
Randy.
Had a Buddhist sex addict, which I love.
Was that Jeremy?
Yes.
Oh my God. Anyway, shut it. Yeah. I know. I love Jeremy.
Jeremy, not my ex-husband Jeremy, but a different,
Yeah.
different
Jeremy
sex addict.
Lipkowitz.
Yes, like a recovered sex addict,
A
not my
recovered sex-
ex-husband. Yeah.
That dude is deep.
Woo!
His energy, that guy is solid. I love him.
That guy is, man.
Yeah.
But we talked a little bit about in that pause is freedom, right? Like
Yeah.
that is where your
Yes.
freedom lies. And if you can sort of look at your higher power as freedom, then I look at that pause. But yeah, it's so funny that like, how many people can you just say, oh, I talked to this Buddhist sex addict? I'm like, Jeremy.
I gotta have him back on. He was amazing.
It was amazing.
I was like, I found myself telling him all my problems.
I was just gonna say, so you know what I'm doing now? I am not wearing my headphones and listening to podcasts all the time. I'm not distracting myself from boredom or discomfort, which I didn't realize I was doing till I was talking to Jeremy. And so he deleted his Spotify and his podcasts like off of his phone because he was doing the same thing. But yes, I was talking about my problems with it.
Yeah, he is so grounded and centered and peaceful and loving. I don't know what it is about that guy. I found myself telling him all my problems. And I got off the phone. I was like, what are you doing, woman? Why are you telling me? There's something about him that felt so safe that I just found myself like oversharing.
I felt the same way. That is so funny.
You know what he told me? There was this person I was struggling with that he happened to know. And I was like, man, I don't want to be struggling with this. And he goes, just drop it. And I was like, what? He goes, drop it. He's like, that's it. You don't have to carry that anymore. And there must be something about him. You know how like in the presence of certain people, I process faster. And I don't know what it is about him. Maybe because I felt he must be genuinely so safe that I was like, okay, I got it. And that was years ago. I still remember it. I was like, I clocked that. Got it. I will drop it. It's funny.
Oh my God. And do you do that now?
Occasionally,
like,
yeah.
Drop it.
I go, oh, I'm in a mental habit loop. I got that from Dr. Judd Brewer.
Yeah.
Obsessed. I've been going to his group every week. I love him.
You have?
Yes. Going tomorrow.
I'm gonna write that down.
We're still recording. We're taking notes.
I know. Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
What else on my list of things? So I've struggled with something last week. And so what I noticed is I paused and I was actually, it was something where I could have gone either way. Like it wouldn't have been inappropriate to I wouldn't even say the word white lie, but pick a slightly less truthful way to go about resolving something. And then the fully truthful way. And I was pulled towards the truthful way to do it. And I have to think that is my higher power.
Okay. Yeah.
I do.
You're able to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not trying to rationalize the bad decision or the negative. I'm actually like, what is the right thing to do? And then my gut will say.
Just be honest and authentic.
And you never will go wrong that way. Like, that's what I always realize. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. It's always going to be the right outcome, you know?
Yeah, those difficult conversations are important to have sometimes. And, there's this idea of speak your truth without blame or judgment. Those are typically I statements. Like, I don't really feel good about this. I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, speak your truth. I haven't heard that. I liked it.
Yeah, is that a good one?
Yeah, that is
I use that a lot. Speak your truth without blame or judgment, because it's so easy to put a hook in there because you.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable doing this because you.
Yeah.
That's the blame and judgment.
That's really funny.
You make me feel.
Yeah. That's really funny. Okay.
So did you do the exercise for 1 week, write down all the ways your higher power worked in your life? Or those some examples of like the pause and
those were some examples. I think those are the examples actually. And so they all fit into those categories. And so, I just feel like since I got sober too, like I'm so appreciative of those. It's the moments of awe that I think I notice the most, or moments where there was one that I felt like there's like a few things that happened when I got sober. I felt like I was sort of like, obviously, like I felt like I'd been stunted like emotionally at like 15 or like whenever it was I started drinking. I always felt like, oh, I don't feel things other people feel, like in the same way. In the same way is probably the best way to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had so much anxiety. And then I think when I got sober, I started to like really do like a lot of the like healing and growth. And then when I went through my divorce, I kind of like got locked up again.
That's a mourning period.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
That's
okay.
fair.
Yeah. We had somebody on the podcast. Who was like, oh, when I do like the pigeon in yoga, I just
it releases
and they start crying uncontrollably. And I was like, and then my sister-in-law, who's like my co-host, was like, oh my God, me too. And I was like, what are you bitches? What are you talking about? I was in a pigeon for like 7 minutes the other day. All I got nothing. Yeah, all I was angry. Like, until I started to kind of feel that again. I was like, why is there something wrong with me? Like everyone's releasing stuff and like whatever. It's like flowing. And so I really don't have moments like that very often at all. And I don't know if I like stop myself or what it is, but something happened like with my boyfriend, and the 2-year anniversary of his dad's passing is coming up. And this month. And so I think what was Sunday morning, it was like March 1st. And he was like upset about something about that. Right. And we were talking about it a little bit. And then something happened later in the day that had some like synchronicity to it. And I just started crying. And I don't do that. And it wasn't it was like a happy cry. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what you needed. Like he had been like, oh, it's a tough month for me. And then something, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what you needed. And crying. Poor guy. I'm probably making him like more upset, but, and after I was like, and I even said to him, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm sorry. And he's like, no. And I'm like, he's like, you're making me cry. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Like, it just something felt so like, oh, this is what he needed. Like, I knew that I wouldn't be able to comfort him in like all the ways. And so he finally was getting that comfort. And I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, that was it. That was my pigeon moment.
So interesting, because I think sometimes when we witness someone heal, it heals a part in us.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so him receiving the thing that he needed and you witnessing his relief, it's like, it gives you hope that that's possible for you. You see it happen in him. It triggered something really deep in you. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't figure out I knew that, what was nice about it was, wow, I haven't felt this way about somebody in a really, really long time. And so that was really like, I was like, is that what it is? Like, is it that?
Oh, but no, your heart has softened.
Yeah. But you're right that it is watching somebody heal or feeling that is really moving. And I don't know how often we get to see it, but I mean, yeah.
That's the good stuff.
Oh my God. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to journal about it again later. Another thing I noticed, I feel like, I don't know if you feel like this with the higher power stuff, is like music.
Oh, yeah. Music. Yeah, there's that saying that music speaks where words fail.
Ah.
Yeah. There's something so powerful about music.
I was like listening to Stick Season by Noah Kahan. And I just got like really emotional too. Like I didn't start crying, but I was like, oh, this is so good. Like, and so that feels like to me a higher power, right? Like working in that way. I don't know what you think about that, like art and music and that type of thing.
Yeah, it's, you talk to the sound bath people And they will tell you that there are radio frequency waves of healing. And so they'll tell you that. And I'm sure it's in the music and stuff. But yeah, there's something so transformative about the energy waves. Like, to me, that's God too. That's spirituality. It's energy. But what's interesting as an observer of you is that when we experience trauma and pain, we tend to go, I'm never going to feel this again. And we shut that off. However, we don't get to pick and choose what we feel. So if you decide I'm never going to feel this pain again, okay, fine. But you also don't get to feel the joy. You don't get to feel the awe. You don't get to feel the wonderment. You don't get to feel any of the other things. And so when we are finally willing, I mean, so much of addiction is just about avoidance. Life is about avoidance, right? We're all trying to avoid pain that we don't know how to process. And so when we finally say yes and surrender, and we just accept our feelings that we've been trying to avoid, when we lean in and give it space, we are then able to feel all our feelings. Joy is the mother of all emotions, and she won't enter a house where her children are not welcome.
It's the mother of all emotions.
Yeah, and she won't enter a house where her children are not welcome. So all the other feelings. So if you decide, I'm never going to feel pain again, it's like, okay, joy's not coming either.
Wow.
We don't get to pick and choose. It's either you feel your feelings or you don't. Either you feel your feelings or you distract. And to me, the root of all addiction is distraction from pain that we don't know how to feel.
For sure.
That's why I'm always coming from the compassionate side. That's sort of my lens. I look at everything through the lens. Because if we could, we would have. But we just couldn't. Yeah. Some pain is so intense that we drink and use over it. Yeah.
I love that.
So you have been doing all the work to process your pain, and now joy can come in and you have an experience of that.
I will say, and this is not just me like gassing you up, like the book is amazing.
Really? Oh, good.
Yeah. Book is amazing. It is like it's letting me do the steps in a way that works for me.
Yeah.
Even the parts where I'm reading the big book, I'm like, and I'm getting frustrated. I would have given up if it wasn't. Okay. Yeah, if it wasn't for your book.
But now you get the good stuff out of it. That is music to my ears.
Yeah.
Music to my ears.
No, really, like you go from some dude sitting, drinking a milk with a shot of whiskey in it, and I'm just like, I'm done. I'm done. And I'm done, Fred. Okay? And then I go to do the homework, and I'm like, oh, synchronicity. And like, okay, this isn't about Fred. Okay. Yeah. And also it gave me a little bit of compassion for Fred too. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. I'm super excited that we're doing this. And thank you so much for the compliment about my book. That was really what I was hoping for, that this would be like a bridge. A bridge from someone who's like, I don't think this can work for me, to maybe it can.
Yep. It is a bridge.
Awesome. All right, my dear. Well, we'll have to do this again soon. That was so much fun. We talked for 2 hours. We didn't record the first hour.
No.
We'll have to do this again real soon.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll see you for step 3.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
This was Sisters in Sobriety. Thank you for listening and being with us today.
If you want to learn more about sobriety and meet your community, find us at sistersinsobriety.substack.com.
Are you a sister in sobriety? Then reach out on social media. We'd love to hear from you.
If you're feeling generous, leave us 5 stars and a review and follow us wherever you listen.
You'll never miss an episode. Until next time.